Nigerians are eagerly looking forward to the next general election, especially after a year of fundamental electoral reforms was signed into law, of course, to guarantee free, fair, credible, as well as transparent elections, especially with the transmission electronically and the use of technology. After a couple of years working on the new electoral bill and its earlier rejection by the executive due to a lot of controversies and alleged selfish insertions by the federal lawmakers, the National Assembly later accommodated all the observations and passed the document for transmission to President Muhammadu Buhari, who then signed it into law in late February after months of withholding assent.
There are salient and praiseworthy provisions that could positively revolutionize elections in Nigeria through the introduction of new technological innovations.
The 2022 Electoral Act, which repeals the old 2010 Electoral Act, has introduced several innovations to regulate the conduct of federal, state, and area council elections in Nigeria. The new Electoral Act also allows for the heavy deployment of new technologies in the nation's electoral process using the Bimodal Voters Authentication System, or BVAS, an all-in-one technology for the accreditation of voters and electronic transmission of election results. Section 47, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act makes it mandatory that to vote, the presiding officer shall use a BVAS smart card reader or any other technology device that may be prescribed by the Independent National Electoral Commission for the accreditation of voters to verify, confirm, or authenticate the particulars of the intending voter in the manner prescribed by INEC. The use of BVAS is mandatory and is not an option. There's also the results viewing portal, IREV, approved for voters to monitor in real time the results from polling units across the nation on election day. By this, INEC is empowered to transmit polling unit level results in real time. Unlike the BVAS, the transmission is also mandatory as provided in Section 64, subsection 4 of the 2022 Electoral Act. Under the new Act, the use of electronic devices such as BVAS machines, smart card readers, electronic voting machines, and other technological devices are allowed in the accreditation process for voters and in the general conduct of elections. The Electoral Act also makes provision for a central electronic voter database, which provides that INEC shall keep the register of voters at its national headquarters and other locations, provided that the register shall be kept in electronic format in its central database, in addition to being kept in manual or hard copy formats. Under the former Act, this register was kept in manual or hard copy format only. INEC has since gone ahead to provide a credible voter register for the 2023 general election, which now stands at 93.5 million voters.
We want to compile all the amendments together. You remember we have 2010 as amended, 2015 as amended. So we want to put all the amendments in one form so that even the judges will have one document to work with.
We have now laws and guidelines that are there. In the event you are able to be to one of the offenders, the rules is there, you'll be punished for that purpose. While like issue of card snatching or snatching of ballot boxes, alteration of result, announcing elections by directs, and any other thing, even using the security agents, even the INEC officials too, if they are found wanting, they will be the law will take care of itself on them.
You have observed election here in Nigeria, especially I want to look at this year 2022 with the officers in elections in Ekiti and Osun State. What would you say are some of the challenges or even the knocks you want to give to INEC and the thumbs up as well?
I will start from Ekiti and Osun election, where we saw practically the 2022 Electoral Act as amended that President Buhari signed, where it was enforced. And it was really exciting and it gave hope to democracy. where we saw deployment of beavers and integration of technology. That's the exciting part, where votes are actually counting. But the downside is now politicians know votes are counting, so they're now using our election as a transaction, and this is where vote buying and vote selling comes into play. I also think that law enforcement agency needs to do much more. Yes, there's that debate and argument around electoral offences commission, and for me, I don't I don't subscribe to it, because we have Nigerian Police, who is the apex law enforcement agency. Just give them the necessary resources, manpower and financial resources, and expose them to state-of-the-art training and equipment.
Electoral experts and stakeholders say this provision is laudable, as it will provide transparency and effectiveness in the Commission's record keeping and in tracking the number of registered voters who will be voting in the upcoming elections, thereby curbing illegal voting by non-registered voters. INEC says it is fully ready to deploy the digital tools for the 2023 general election to avoid human errors. INEC has since deployed these new technologies as stipulated by the electoral laws into action, with the beavers and others recently used in some off-season elections in 2022, especially the governorship elections in Anambra, Ekiti and Osun states.
The role of money and how this would affect the integrity of our election. Because sadly, these politicians are making it seem like it's going to be transactional. Yes, we have a new CBN policy, even if they've now sort of reviewed it and made it a provision that one can withdraw 500,000 per week. Be as it may, is this going to be applicable to everyone or just a few?
The combination of beavers and IREV portal have come to stay as a means of voter education and transmission of election results. Reports of clashes among parties and their supporters in some states of the country during the ongoing electioneering campaign is worrisome. So too is the reported denial of access to public facilities for parties and candidates in some states of the Federation. Parties, candidates and their supporters should not, by acts of commission or omission, further complicate the prevailing security situation in the country.
The commission, we don't know what the politicians are seeing. We don't know why they are buying up people's PVCs. The only thing they can use the PVCs to do is to engage in what we call voter suppression. In other words, to make sure that the owners of those PVCs do not vote and do not vote at all. But if they think that they can buy up PVCs, hand over to other people, and those people will come to the polling unit on election day and vote, that is next to impossibility. The beavers has the capacity to read fingerprints and read facials, and it is only the person who is duly and validly and properly registered that can vote during any election.
And the same technology with what was deployed in Kenya for the presidential election. So I'm really confident in the deployment of beavers, but most importantly, the role of beavers in accrediting, electorates. Because see, politicians, you can go ahead and buy as many PVCs that you want, but with beavers, you can't use them.
Quite notably is that all three elections had the three top political parties in Nigeria emerging victorious. The All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, retained its hold on Anambra State, with former CBN Governor Professor Charles Soludo declared the winner. In Ekiti State, the former secretary to the Ekiti State government and candidate of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, declared the winner. And in Osun State, Senator Ademola Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party emerging victorious against the incumbent governor Adegboyega Oyetola of the APC, thereby flipping Osun State back to the PDP. Observers are optimistic that with this feat, Nigeria's electoral body INEC has shown its readiness to conduct the 2023 polls. And despite these successes, INEC has recently warned that next year's general election could be jeopardized if the state of insecurity and attacks on its offices continue nationwide, as its facilities have been attacked 50 times between 2019 and 2022. INEC says the endless attacks on its offices and facilities in some states poses the greatest threat to the conduct of next year's election. Regrettably, each of the incidents comes with a huge destruction, ranging from electoral materials like voters' cubicle, ballot boxes, to official cars, office furniture, and a countless number of uncollected permanent voters' cards. From Ogun State, where thousands of uncollected PVCs were consumed in the inferno, to Osun State, where movable and immovable facilities were reduced to rubbles, to several other states like Imo, Ebonyi, Enugu, and Abia in the southeast geopolitical zone, where the spate of attacks have heightened. The Commission has continued to lament in pains and agony over the helpless situation confronting it. It has sought support from the Office of the National Security Advisor on how to ensure that both the military and police are deployed to safeguard INEC facilities.
The state of insecurity is appalling, and if we are unable to guarantee the safety of lives and property, then INEC cannot actually do her job. Even the chairman of INEC has said that, security agencies needs to guarantee that, his staff and the sensitive materials are secured and they can travel free without any hitches. What becomes of our sensitive material as we go into this election? Because we don't want anything to question the integrity of the process and the outcome, because these are what triggers violence.
We are really, really worried at the level of attacks and the intensity of some of these attacks. But with the election approaching, if these attacks continue, it may pose a grave danger to electoral business. For the attacks that have already taken place, that we have the capacity to recover. But that if these attacks continue up to the critical period of the electoral process, that it may be very difficult for the Commission to recover, and it will pose a great danger to electoral business and the conduct of the 2023 general election. It is in the interest of all Nigerians, in the interest of our democracy, and also in the interest of the electoral process to have these elections take place on schedule. But if the attacks continue, especially in some of our local government areas, it may be difficult to hold elections in those local governments.